Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Ryan, Big Jim and Goody are with me as usual. We'll be looking back at all the action from a busy Premiership weekend. We'll have a chat with Scotland International Emma Wassell after the Women's Six Nations got underway at the weekend. And we'll discuss what the future holds for England and Eddie Jones after noises coming out of the RFU over the past week. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you've subscribed on Spotify.
Pod.
Rugby Pod.
How are we, lads?
Sun's out. Guns out. Everyone's happy. Everyone is happy. Summer rugby. Let's say it. Let's start off with a statement. How much happier does the sun make you? Blue
Jim's been at
skies.
the beach.
I mean, don't we know
Yeah.
it? All over your social media. Oh, look at me on the beach. It's -4, but the sun's out.
Dad, get off your phone. Dad, get off your phone, please. It's Mother's Day. Please, I'm begging you. No. 2,000 followers extra and 1,999 are from Indonesia. So you've got to give them what they want. They want beaches, don't they? They want Scotland. They want the Highlands. They want history, and I'll give it to them. But all good. Sun's out, as we know, and my good self and Andrew, without speaking for him, we've been all over the Ruggers this weekend, albeit different. I was going to say different standards. It weren't. I was in Cardiff for the big one, Cardiff-Glasgow. It was a great game. I was going to be a bit horrible then, but I can't. It was great. It was arguably better than what we saw at the Tottenham Stadium. Depends who you speak to. So there ain't going to be an argument. But yeah, I've been all over the Ruggers this weekend, back to a bit of normality. And yeah, feel good. Feel good going on holiday in a couple of weeks, just so the burglars know. Got security at the house, so it don't matter. And not a lot else for you.
Did you have a dry week, Jim, or any alcohol consumed?
Why are you asking?
Why can't
What do you know?
Yeah, the
What
answer
do
is
you know?
yes or no. Did you have a dry week? Yes or no?
Yeah. Yeah. Hey, I've still got a bit of the fear from the live shows. That's why.
Right.
Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I'm second guessing myself, but no, it's taken a while to get over. But I'm in a good mood. I'm a boy. I'm up. I'm floated. I'm happy.
Goody, how was your weekend, mate?
Go back to the week. It happened again, didn't it? It happened again. I was in the office on Tuesday chatting to a few of the lads, and they were like, how are you? I just said, I'm 5 kilos heavier and I'm tired and I'm not having another drink that goes past my lips for a few weeks. They're like, what are you on about? I said, I've drank that much Guinness over the last 6 weeks. And we talked about it last week, didn't we? We were glad all the live shows were over for one reason and one reason only, to have an alcohol-free few weeks. They were like, we've got a team meal out on Thursday night. I'm like, oh, fuck. So it happened again. I said to the missus, I'll be back by 11. Rock's in at about 3 a.m. in the doghouse Friday. So, yeah, I promised myself I wouldn't drink, and then I completely forgot about the team meal out and ended up having a big night out with the lads again on Thursday. But it got better because Saturday, as Jim said, I was at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. What a stadium that is. I mean...
How, Andrew? I know I would have you commentating on every big game, but how the hell have you got that gig? How are you doing that at the weekend?
I just, analysis, rugby
IQ.
IQ.
I know that. I know all that. But why are you not doing the zebra match? Like, why are you doing the big one?
I think Austin couldn't do it. Probably is the true answer. I don't know. What a stadium though! Like an unbelievable stadium. And we'll get onto the game in a bit. But yeah, privileged to be there. 50-odd thousand. You've never seen a stadium like it in your life, built in the middle of an absolute shithole, let's be honest. But it was great to be there. The comms area was quality. Just walking around the stadium, seeing everything. The changing rooms, ridiculous. And it was absolute privilege to commentate on that on Saturday night. So yeah, all good.
Well, we'll come on to the Premiership action in a minute, but there's been a fair amount coming out of the RFU over the past week in the aftermath of the Six Nations. It appears that RFU's succession planning for Eddie Jones is underway, and apparently the new head coach will be named before the 2023 World Cup and will be English. Plus, there's a plan in place in case Eddie leaves before the World Cup. Goody, your thoughts?
I'm at odds with it, really. We spoke about last week, the absolute PR disaster for me after the France defeat, where they've come out and said the RFU, a faceless person from the RFU, a spokesperson, has said we're happy with the solid progress that the team's made. And we called it out last week. We spoke about it, didn't we? And other pundits and other people have called it out as well. So I think this press conference that they called by Bill Sweeney was very reactionary to the absolute disaster that they put out the week before. And again, I'm going to throw it out there. I think it's ridiculous what they've said, like absolutely crazy. So all they've got, and I said it last week, all they should have said is, we're not happy with where we're at. Obviously, we're 2 wins out of 5, but we're backing Eddie Jones to the hill. You don't need to go any further. Like, we're going to do a review. Okay, put some findings out. But if you'd have just been solid and said, we're backing Eddie Jones to the World Cup, and hopefully we get back on the horse when we play Australia in the summer, bang, you're done. Then, you come out with a ridiculous statement last week. Then he holds a 1-hour press conference and he's talking about, this new coach is going to be in place prior to the World Cup. Basically you're cutting down every option that you've got, except for they've got an Englishman, and I'll tell you what's going to happen. They've got an Englishman that can coach under Eddie Jones, that will be available before the World Cup. Steve Borthwick is literally the only person that has done. There's a reason Steve Borthwick left England to go and get head coaching experience, and that was to take over from Eddie Jones. Now, any coach, like you think of, if you go after the biggest coaches in the world, who would England want to be as their head coach? Well, it should be, who's the best coach in the world? We are the biggest union, so let's go and get the best coach in the world somehow. Be that Scott Robertson from New Zealand, be that Sean Edwards, be that Warren Gatland, be that any name you want to chuck out there. But basically what he's saying is he's got to be English. And I'm patriotic, and I'm happy that they're going down that route. But if he's the 6th best coach, whoever this English person is in the world, well, why aren't we going after the best? Like, Sean Edwards is an ultimate Englishman. He's openly said he likes long-term employment. He ain't coming to England before the World Cup, is he? He's got a contract with France. So you basically said, no, we don't want Sean Edwards. And so I think for me, I think it's, again, a ridiculous statement. And it's really bad PR again, because they're kind of saying that whoever comes in is going to be English, is going to work under Eddie Jones. No one wants to work under Eddie Jones, really, do they? And any good coach worth their salt is going to be in a contract. And so the only thing that I can think of is Steve Borthwick gets to the end of his coaching contract at Leicester Tigers at the end of 2023 season. So you're talking June next year, and he can then work under Eddie Jones. It's flabbergasting for me. It basically says Eddie Jones is named his successor. Shouldn't have anything to do with Eddie Jones. Like, it should be, here's our plan. Eddie's going to the World Cup, and we will make noises in the background around who we want, and we're going to go after them. You can get people to sign a pre-contract. So you can go and get a Sean Edwards, but he'll start after the World Cup. And by the way, Sean, you can sign that £1 million contract a year, whatever it is, for 4 years. But it's just ridiculous what they've done. I really do think it. And to say he's going to be working with Eddie at the 2023 World Cup, someone mentioned that France did it with Jim's mate, Fabien Galtier, at the last World Cup. Well, all the players are like, then who do we listen to? Do we listen to the coach now, the coach next year? I just think it's a crazy situation. And again, very bad management from Bill Sweeney as CEO of the RFU.
Galtier got sacked as well from Toulon and Montpellier. So that's why he had the time, because that's the point, isn't it, Goody, that you're making? That really any decent coach is under contract, as in good and proper. And out of all of them, I know Borthwick's been thrown about, and look, he's done a fantastic job with Leicester at the top of the league. So the proof's in the pudding. I'd be not flabbergasted. I'd be gutted for Leicester if they lost him that quickly. It's a big call for him as well, as such a young coach, because, as you know, any international coach, unless you win a World Cup, doesn't end well, especially if you're England coach. We've seen that. We'll look at all the last England coaches. Tell me which one's ended well. Well, it hasn't. There's only one man for the job, and it's walk in, smash him. There is no better man to take the reins in terms of experience, in terms of energy, in terms of the public. Not one person, English, Welsh, Scottish, Irish, German, is batting an eyelid. Everyone knows that he is the right man. If you're talking English, he is the right man for the job. I cannot think of anyone else. Gatland's getting thrown about. Well, it's a stopgap, isn't it, until the All Blacks? So that's speaking for him. But I imagine that's the case. Scott Robertson, same. Like, he'll come over for a bit. He wants to coach the All Blacks. I'm sure he's on their list of coaches that are in line. I saw Richard Cockrell out on his bike, put on a bit good. He actually thought it was you riding your bike past me earlier today.
Is he on the horn?
He didn't even look at me. He's English now, isn't he? So I loved it when I think he came on the podcast, didn't he? And he was saying we, talking about Scotland. I absolutely loved it. But he's English now. No other man. If they're talking about it now, I don't know why you'd say we'll bring them in now. It's just, this is Ruggers, isn't it, at the minute? This is Ruggers. If in doubt, just do what Will Smith did and just break down and cry on TV and just say, I'm sorry, I'm sorry.
Slap someone first, though, right?
Hey, Chris Rock took it well, didn't he? Do you think you would have taken that, Andrew? I Am Legend or what?
It's obviously a setup, isn't it? In my opinion.
No,
Really?
no chance.
Well, while we're in the USA, let's talk about the 2031 World Cup. World Rugby saying the USA is the only country they're talking to. So does that mean it's a done deal?
I reckon
I hope so.
it's going to happen. Yeah, I hope so as well. If rugby is to grow, right, and there's a load of stuff, and I could sit here for half an hour and talk about what I believe how the game could grow and what needs to be done, and people can talk about putting music at half time when Connacht are playing Zebra. That ain't the way. I know the Rock Nation have come out and said that that's the way. Entertainment and all that stuff, completely get that. One for me, summer rugby. Again, I'm going to bat that drum until it happens. And the other one is USA.
Bat the drum or bang the drum.
Well, I can put a foot through it as well if you want. Well, what do you mean bat it with a bat?
Yeah.
Can't say bat.
Yeah.
Hey, can't say bat.
Who ate the bat?
Well, I don't know. Who ate the bat? Who ate it? How do you say it? I don't know. For goodness me, they've got something to answer for if they are still around. My God. Anyway, we're through that. Positivity. Rugby, the growth. USA World Cup 2031. For me, I think everyone knows that in order for the game to grow, it needs to take off in the US, right? And we know the MLR is growing and they're franchised and they're owned by sugar daddies, if you can say that, rich people, if you can say that, rich men, if you can say that. There's a big disconnection between USA Union, who are losing money, they almost went bankrupt, but the appetite is there to grow the game in America. But I think internationally, globally, from a world rugby standpoint, there's only one way. People keep talking about Japan, and the World Cup in Japan was fantastic in 2019, absolutely fantastic. So we know in Japan, the top league is taking off, but with all due respect, it's a very different culture in Japan, albeit amazing. So the money and the commercial aspect, having a World Cup in America in 2031 makes absolute sense for the growth of the game. And that's probably how long it's going to take the USA to be, I say competitive with the likes of Georgia, Romania, tier 2 nations, right? Because at the minute they're just not competitive. Like they're
Scotland.
not there. Well, interesting that. Interesting.
Wales.
True. But with the USA, they need to find a backdoor way into the World Cup. They've got Chile, I think, to qualify. But I love all the noises coming out of it. I think it's the right way to go, as I've said.
I think that's the big thing as well. Like you talk about Japan there and the quality of player that's out in Japan. And it's not off the back of the World Cup, but obviously there's an investment by all the clubs after the World Cup to continue growing the game. So, you know, they're getting world stars playing over there, like your Craig Coopers and like your Karevis and all these boys. Bowden Barrett went for a stint as well. In America, you're seeing, and Jim said it then, there's now an appetite for a lot of these boys, the Matt Gittos going and playing for the Giltinis. You know, there's numerous players that are trying to go over there. So that is the next step. And I think you think about it, 2031 World Cup, that's 9 years' time, James. And
can you imagine the state of us? Can you imagine what we're going to look like in 9 years' time?
That's the point. I was just thinking, how cool would it be? We could be based in LA, or we could be based in Miami. We've been there. We conquered Miami. You know, New York, wherever it is. And then I was like, shit, I'll be 51. You know,
oh my gosh! Oh my gosh! I tell you what, though,
time to wind it in a little bit, I reckon. Yeah,
my lid and the tags will be done at that point. So arguably, I can look better than I look now. I don't know if you will, Goody. I don't want to be horrible, but I've got a feeling that the weave is slowly falling out, and I don't know whether
look how strong the weave is. Weave looks strong. It's just the gastric band that needs doing next. Although I'm 2 kilos down this week. 2 kilos down this week, so I'm down to 1.
How have you lost 2 kilos in a week?
That was just a massive shit before I came on air. So.
Let's talk about some rugby now then, Goody. Let's start with you. Tottenham Hotspur Stadium, you mentioned it before. Talk us through the game and the event as a whole.
Yeah, I mean, the event was unbelievable. Seeing, obviously, when you're on TV, you get there pretty early. So we were there about 12 o'clock and it was fairly empty. And seeing it grow, seeing everything, the fanfare outside, and fair play to Saracens as a club. They've put it on. You know, we've been through COVID. They've obviously been through the relegation. And I think one of the quotes was, from one of their players was this time last year we were playing Cornish Pirates away, and here we are at the Tottenham Hotspur Stadium.
Oh God!
With 50,000 people. So I even made some friends with Saracens fans, James, which was miracles do happen. I don't know who they were. They didn't have a full set of teeth, but they were literally, so they came up to me before the game, and me and Lawrence are chatting on the side, and Saracens fans, Goody. I'm like, oh, how you doing? I was a bit anxious around like a Saracens fan coming up to me. Just didn't know whether there'd be an absolute nose and chuck a pint on me or something, or you just never know, do you? Because there's that ill feeling there from them because I called out everything that went on. Now, this woman said to me, it was with her husband, and there was about a group of 6 of them, and said, why are you so mean about Saracens and the salary cap? I said, I'm not. I said, and I used a line, and I quote Jim Hamilton, there's a fine line between honesty and what you perceive to the lady as negativity. Now, you see it as negative. I see it as just being honest, and the punishment fitted the crime. So, and we got chatting. She was like, do you know what? I'm going to follow you back on Twitter now. So, whereas Jim Hamilton gained 2,000 followers from Indonesia on his Instagram that cost him about 500 quid, I've made 6 Saracens fans turn back to following Andy Good on Twitter again because she's like, you're a much nicer bloke than I thought you were. I was like, well, I can lie about that as well.
Andrew, you just said she had no teeth. I don't think she's going to be carried on following you.
No, I didn't. I said she didn't have a full set of teeth, but it was a hell of a day. And getting into the game, obviously Saracens went there with their gun 15 bar Mac over the polo. It was the strongest team I think they could put out, fully loaded. Owen Farrell back. He looks like he's done a lot of upper body weights in the 4 months he's had off. Obviously with 2 ankle injuries and a foot injury, whichever one it was. But yeah, Bristol, I looked at the Bristol team, I'm like, this is going to be done before half time. If Saracens rock up with all their internationals and play anywhere near their potential, and Bristol keep playing the way they've been playing, by half time it's all over. And Pat Lam, first time I've ever seen this, but Pat Lam put 4 forwards and 4 backs on the bench. You ever seen that, Jim?
No.
So
makes you think they've got injuries, haven't they, in their squad?
Well, he came out before the game and said, look, what we've noticed is our backs aren't very durable. For the first 20 minutes, we scored more points than anyone else. And then the last 20 minutes, we concede more points than anyone else. And a lot of it's the back's fault, effectively. He said, look, they're not as durable, fitness-wise, they can't get through 80 minutes. And I'm just sat there listening to it going, geez, imagine if he ever coached me what he thought about my fitness. But the fitness coach got an absolute hammering, I think, over the weekend. And he's got a lot of work to do Monday morning. But 4 backs on the bench, 2 of them were worth about 2 million quid in total in Semi Randrandra and Charles Peartow. And he came with this plan of, we're going to stay in the game and then we're going to bring our boys off the bench in the last sort of 25, 30 minutes and hopefully go on and win the game. And Saracens had good shapes on attack, but they were edgy. Your 10 comes back in, Owen Farrell, who's been out for 4 months. You're integrating a lot of internationals back in that team. Collectively, and they were just sort of half a yard off the pace in terms of accuracy and all this stuff. And Bristol took a couple of chances. What amazed me, and here's one for you, Jim, you've got the England hooker, Jamie George, playing his 250th game. You've got the England second row partnership against France, MARO and Nick Ezekwe. Couldn't win a line out for love nor money. Yeah, that's supposedly 3 of England's best players in those positions. So you've got to credit Bristol for putting them under pressure. But yeah, it's mad when you look at it. All I was thinking was get Jim on there, 2-step lob. That's what they need. But they brought Swinner on with about 5 minutes to go, so that shored it all up.
He brought the long leg in the ruck to win the game when the ball went off. So worth his weight in gold. It was a weird game though, wasn't it? Because the tries that were scored were all kind of opportunists. I know they went through the phases or whatever, but it was bounce the ball and stuff like that that kind of led to the tries. That was the weird. Yeah. That was the weird thing about the game. And I suppose you probably get that with Faz coming in. And I only watched the game back because I said I was doing the big one, the Glasgow-Cardiff game down in Cardiff. But I read some stuff on social media. And again, I don't know why I've gone to that to get my information about Owen Farrell not playing a good game, not having a good game, high tackles. So I'm thinking...
no, he played all right, Faz.
Well, I know he did. I watched it back. That's what I mean. So when I went and watched it back, I was like, actually... took the ball to the line. He's been out for 5 months.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? He's come straight back in. The issue is, and I think I listened to, was it maybe Lawrence or Benny, someone on BT said, he's going to get caught out with his tackling one day. Like he is just, and you can see what he's just naturally a high tackler, isn't he? And then obviously he's been out for 5 months. You revert back to type, which is trying to bang boys. But I thought he looked good. I thought,
yeah,
well, we know he's a world class player, isn't he? But fair play to Bristol's weather conditions. Obviously suited them. What about poor Joe Joyce? I mean, what a break at the end! What a break! I would have just let him have it. Let him have it. Just let them have the try.
Well, this is the thing.
He's done the hard work.
Yeah, this is the thing. I mean, you can't let him have it. And we called out a few things. I thought Christoph Ridley missed quite a few bits. You know, Billy Vunipola should have been sin-bin for slapping the ball down. Should have been a yellow card. Elliot Daly came at the side of them all that was going over for a try, and I'm like, how's he missed that? So when you're, you know, there was a try that, and you obviously watched it, Jim. I called it on TMO. I should be TMO. Basically, Billy knocks the ball on, and the try ends up getting scored by Saracens. And we're like, no, I said, no, there's been a knock on. I need to check it. So they've gone back to an offload, which was just before the try, which was clearly not forward. And they're like, no, it's fine. And then I'm like, no, they've got the wrong one.
No, it's not. No, it's not. No, it's not.
The TMO, Brian McNeice, was like, oh, better check again then. And they stopped the try. But rightly so. Yeah. Rightly so.
But when you mentioned the TMO, Andrew, I thought you were going to name drop me. When you mentioned biscuits, I thought you were going to say your partner in crime, try to get me on BT Sport for a big game. Nothing. Nothing.
Well, I'm with the go out, Lawrence. So what am I going to do?
Well, very true. But I mean, even Lawrence knows my name. I reckon in that kind of sentence, he might have referenced me somehow.
But yeah, going back to Joe Joyce, this is a coaching thing, right? So you know the old double pump when you do 2v1s and all this stuff, Jim. Coaches teach players to pump the ball to try and fix a defender. So if you pump it once, if the defender stays, you then tip it on.
Did you just ask him if he knows how to do a double pump?
Yeah. Well, he does it in a different manner, but not in rugby terms.
2-pump, Jim. 2-pump, Jim. Bob.
So I felt so sorry for Joe Joyce. He's probably done everything the coaches have taught him to do. Pump the ball once, fix the defender, then pass it. That 1 second delay, or not even 1 second, half a second, quarter of a second, whatever it was, just meant that when he shoved it out his hands, and the big old hands as well, hell of a break, 80th minute, second row, and he's done Duncan Taylor as well. Duncan Taylor's herring across. I reckon he snapped his hammy again by the looks of it. And then the forward pass, such a shame. But rightly so, if you're calling out the TMO, you've got to call that out and say it was forward. So in the end, Saracens deserved to win. It was a great day out. Really enjoyed it. Glad to get home safely at the end of it after driving through Edmonton and Tottenham. Won't be going there back in a hurry, mind.
I'll go. If anyone wants to use me, I'm happy to go there. Before one day, it's in the garage. Keep it real, man of the people and all that.
And from that to the other end of the scale, Worcester cancelling their trip to Gloucester, late notice on Friday. That's a bit of a shame, wasn't it?
What are you saying? What are you saying, Andy? Right? It sounds like they did it on purpose. And like,
hell of a spectacle at Tottenham, and then nothing at all in Gloucester, which is a bit of a shame for the fans, isn't it?
What are you saying? Dimes didn't want to play the game because he didn't have a full squad, so we tried to say that the prop was injured. What are you? I ain't saying that. Is that what you're trying to imply, Andy? Right?
It was COVID. It wasn't COVID. There's a bit of illness. There's a bit of an injury. We did a fitness test. Just didn't fancy it.
Tight hamstring. Can do. Andy wrote, you called it, mate. He got cancelled. That was it. I mean, that's all we know. If you want a bit of insight, if we were to try to cause a bit of drama, we'd probably get people sacked. And let's get it out there. I know nothing. Absolutely nothing. It's not something where I thought, you know what? This is something I'm really, really interested in, the Gloucester-Worcester game getting canned. So I'm going to ring someone up and see what the crack is. All I know is that Ravo's arm got to spend time with the 4 kids, which I'm sure he's absolutely delighted with.
What I will say on it is, and I don't know whether it's just the association of Steve Diamond, it's a bit smelly. I'm going to be honest. I'm not saying Steve Diamond's smelly. I'm just going to say the way it ended up, there was a bit of COVID, but not enough to cancel the game. We had a bit of illness. There was a few injuries. They could have put a team out by getting some loanies in late doors. Look at what Cardiff did to get the game on. They've gone for a bin man, an electrician, someone that's
Postman
still. Cardiff Postman Platt as well got a game. So I genuinely believe that Worcester could have done more and could have got the game on. The big thing about it is Gloucester are right in the hunt for the top four. Now, ultimately, I'm just going to throw it out there. If that game goes ahead, Gloucester win that with a bonus point.
Don't say
and take 5
Don't
points.
say they'll get 5 points. Yeah,
they would have got 5 points, I reckon, without a shadow of a doubt. Looking at what's happening at Worcester at the minute, looking at the fact that there was injuries or illness or COVID and whatever team they were going to put out, Gloucester would have got 5 points. Now, the regs, the Premiership, if it is to do with COVID and a cancellation, it's 4 points to Gloucester because Worcester couldn't fulfil the fixture, and Worcester get 2 points. The Worcester getting 2 points is irrelevant. It's the thing, and we'll only find out this later in the season, is how close that top four race is now, and whether Gloucester are getting 4 points for the win, and we're still to find out what's going to happen with it, or if they'd have played the game, they'd have got 5 points. They'll be absolutely raging, and if they miss out by 1 point for the top four, which theoretically could happen, my goodness me, there'll be people that are pretty pissed off. So I feel for Gloucester. I hope everyone's okay at Worcester, of course I do. But something about Steve Diamond being involved in it and the way it was all handled, the way it was all done last minute, just doesn't sit right. So investigate the life out of it.
Andrew, you've convinced me that there's something there. I wasn't that interested. I was just happy for Ravo's arm. But you're right. Hey, I agree. They would have got 5 points. They would have, because fully loaded Gloucester, aren't they? So we will see. Hell of a finish to the end of the season, though.
It is going to be. It's going to be. So, did you speak to Ravo? Was he happy to spend time with his 4 kids, or would he rather the game gone on?
The fact that he hasn't rang me means that he's in hell right now, is all I'm thinking.
Well, Leicester sealed their playoff place with 5 rounds to go after beating Exeter away. How big of a blow is that defeat for the Chiefs in terms of their own playoff hopes? Well,
they're still 4th, so not that big a blow in the grand scheme of things, but huge for Leicester, because they've now cemented their position in the top 4, but also how comfortable it was. I know Exeter came back, but just how comfortable Leicester looked just across the board. The beginning of the season, middle of the season, you're thinking, right, so something's going to happen, the momentum's going to come off, probably a little bit like Gloucester, which you see the momentum came off slightly. Leicester, no. Unbelievable performance against Saracens a few weeks ago down at the StoneX Stadium. And then you're thinking, all right, the boys are back from international duty. You'd expect maybe a little bit of a drop in terms of emotion with everything they've been through in terms of internationally trying to back it up. No, complete opposite. Absolutely rocked up. I know Fordy went off injured. Freddie came on, and it was a seamless transition. I thought Ollie Chesham was fantastic. He got man of the match. 20-odd tackles in the game. Whoever goes into that Leicester team just perform, don't they? And, well, the fact that they're the only team now that are in the top 4 shows you, doesn't it? So I thought they were unbelievable. Physical, direct, tactically very good. One thing I just wish Borthos would give us a bit more after. You know what I mean? Like,
it's not his character, though, is it? He's Mr. Rugby.
Yeah, but Sarah says to him after, he's like, you've secured top 4, like, great achievement. And he's just like, wow, the achievements around the game today. Well, I get that. But, mate, Leicester finished bottom of the league last year. Like,
yeah.
Mate, top of the league by a country mile. Come on, give us something. But, hey, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what we want. He's absolutely delivering. So that's when we talk about the England thing with Borthwick. If he stays in situ at Leicester with what they're building, with the South African contingent that they've got, they're going to be proper.
Yeah, listen, Leicester were great. And you're welcome, Leicester Tigers. And I know I do a bit of work back at the club now. But Chris Ashton, hey, comes on a couple of live shows, has a few pints of Guinness and blackcurrant with my good self and Jim Hamilton. And then he goes and scores 2 down at Exeter. I mean, the crossfield kick from George Ford was absolutely pinpoint perfect. And Ashley's the ultimate poacher, so he goes and gets the loose ball and off he goes for his second try. But he's equal to Tom Vondell. I can't say his nickname on air, Tom Vondell. It's an amazing nickname. He said to us...
Say it.
Go on.
I'll say it. The anal vibrator. I'll say it. No issue.
There's another one as well. There's another one as well, Jim. Okay. Yeah, Ashley, we were chatting to him last week, weren't we? He came to Liverpool, came to Manchester. And I said, mate, you've got to be in your sights. He's like, mate, I ain't even bothered. I haven't even thought about it. I'm just happy. I'm happy playing for Leicester. And he went and scores 2 at the weekend to equal it. So fair play. There we him, hate Doncaster, Ealing, Cornish Pirates. Go and get a job there, Ashley. He's gone to Leicester. Apparently, he's gone there on very little cash as well, as in he just wants to play and prove himself again. And fair play to Ashley. As you did your piece with him last week, Jim, he's a lovable rogue, and he scored a couple of tries to take him joint top of the try scoring charts.
Well, I'll tell you what, if Rosslyn Park don't sign him now, he ain't ever getting a deal. Do you know what I mean? Having scored 2 down in Exeter and being joint top try scorer, and if he gets another opportunity, I'm sure that he'll top it. If Rosslyn Park or Cov ain't signing him now, then he may as well hang up the boots, because there's nothing more he can do. You know what I mean? You walk away
Bedford,
like there's
Bedford.
nothing more. Yeah, I don't know. Bedford's uphill, isn't it? So I'm thinking more. It needs a good surface.
A couple of the teams that are now snapping at the heels of Exeter, Northampton and London Irish went head-to-head at Brentford over the weekend as well, but it wasn't to be for the Irish, was it?
Absolutely hosed. Absolutely hosed.
Yeah.
And the interesting thing, Andrew, I know you're a big fan of Northampton. That's what's always come across when we chat about Ruggers.
Yeah.
And maybe it's because Vesty, my old bogey monsters there. Boydie didn't think they'd make top 4. He
The way
thought
they
the
play
season
as
was
well.
over.
Listen, Boydie said before he didn't think they would make top 4, but I've always liked them, and I find them very frustrating because when they're on it, and when that back line with Bigger at 10, obviously Dingwall, I really rate him. Hutchinson, I've not hidden the fact that I really enjoy watching him play as well from back in the day when I first commentated at Northampton. I saw him warm up. I was like, who's this kid? He looks really good in a warm up. And my God, he's a good player as well. But they have been so up and down. And that's the thing, isn't it? You look at the top 3 teams, Leicester, Saracens and Quins, very, very consistent in what they do, generally week in, week out. And then underneath that, the long list from Exeter have been ridiculously inconsistent this year, which is something that they've never been. Gloucester have really recovered. Saints, really enjoy watching them play. Dingwall is absolute class. You see the try he scores, goes straight through the middle off a short ball from Hutchinson. First phase, absolutely brilliant play. And we love the bogey monster Sam Vesti as well. I like the way he coaches the game and sees the game. So it's going to be very exciting now. It's so close. Even Wasps, I hate to mention it. I don't hate to mention it because I work there as well. They got a win at the weekend. Probably shouldn't have won against Newcastle. And they're real outsiders, but a lot of pressure on Exeter now. 57 points. I think Gloucester will move ahead of them come what may when the points get divvied up from that game. But it's going to be a battle royale. And Jim, just going back to Exeter, I got a pat on the back, son. You've even got Austin Healy believing in you now.
Did he mention me? Did he say that he heard me say it and I convinced him?
Well, no, he didn't mention you. What he said was he doesn't think Exeter will make top 4, which is what you said at the start of the season. So you are the oracle.
Well, there we go. Absolutely. Just another line on Northampton, David Ribbons. I was questioning where the second rows are, where the locks are for England. Him and also Dave Atwood for Bristol's. I think both of them they've got to be up there. They've got to be up there or close to England. So imagine if Borthos was in charge, they'd probably both be in. Just saying.
Yeah. Ribbons is a quality player. Really like him. He's actually, I think he's toughened up a lot as well. And it's an easy thing to say, isn't it? Like he's got the physicality around him in terms of decent ball carrier, but he looks harder now as well as a player, which is ultimately what you need as a second row. A man of your experience, Jim.
Yeah, cheers. Very similar in terms of the aesthetic build. And obviously I'm taking the piss. He's big lad. Love to see him with his shirt off. I bet he'd be shredded under the muscle. I think there'd be a couple of layers, but if he took that off, he'd be shredded. Well, might see him in Ibiza in the summer, who knows?
And Sale is the other team that's in with a hunt. They came back from 14 points down at halftime to draw 24 all at Bath and get a bonus point too. Is that? Do you think that's a good result for them, or do you think that they dropped a couple of points and could have moved into that 4th spot?
Andy Rowe, you answered the question, mate. If you saw Faf de Klerk's kick at the end, well, he got cramp. He got cramp in his calf. He got cramp in his hamstring. That's why I missed it in front of the sticks. But
wasn't in front of the sticks.
To the left. 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 It was
Tough
an easy
kick.
kick.
Oh,
do you reckon?
Mate, no kick to win a game's easy unless it's right under the sticks, 2 meters out.
Tell Paolo Garbisi that. That's all I'm saying. But what I'm saying was the kicking was off during that game. Not that was the reason why they drew the game. Discipline again. You've got to call it. You've got to say it. It's just discipline again for Sale. I'm going to dig out the stats for next week just to see. And they joked about it. We joked about it last year. Alex Anderson mentioned it, but it seems to be an underlying thing. But Dupree was having an off day with the boots. They moved Faf de Klerk in. I know it's easier said than done. I'm saying it was an easy kick, but it went right to the wire. Fair play to Bath. It shows that they've got something. Like Sam Underhill, his carrying ability. I know that he fluffed one of the tries, but that kind of reverse pass that he did to almost set himself back up. I thought Cipriani looked pretty decent. He was getting the ball into the wide channels. Ben Spencer as captain as well. It seems like the shackles are off. There's a bit more confidence in that team because Sale, when you look at the profile of the team, Lou Diego, the Dupree brothers, obviously Faf de Klerk as well, the world-class talent that they've got in their team, you're thinking it's an easy win. The way that they play physically, they're route one. But yeah, it was just, I thought it was a good game again. It was in the sun, wasn't it? So Bath could play that open, expansive rugby. And do I say that's massive for Bath? Well, it is in terms of they could have lost it though, couldn't they? They could have lost it at the end. And maybe that is such an energy sapper if that would have happened for them because they deserve to come back into it. But yeah, it's... this is the question mark over Sale. Are they going to be a top four side? If they are, if they make it in, if they scrape into the top four, can they win? Can they win a semi? Can they win a final? That's the big thing with some of the flaws that they've got around discipline. With Manu, probably. If they get Manu. I know Fordy's going next year and he'll sort out the kicking, but we're talking about this year, aren't we? So I love Sale. I love the way they play.
I'll tell you one of the issues. AJ McGinty wasn't playing at the weekend. Taking him out of the team, they ain't winning any semi-final if they get to the top four. And what they'll be frustrated with, if you watch the last 5 minutes where Bath ended up getting a penalty, just watch the body language of the Sale players. They're in Bath 22 attacking. They get a penalty turnover against them. Ben Spencer kicks the ball as if he's going for touch, misses touch, the ball bounces couple of times and it's the Bath players, it's a 60-metre kick, yet it's still the Bath players that end up getting the ball back 60 metres down the pitch where...
Goody, but I thought, did he not mean to kick it down the middle?
It's a penalty, no chance.
I thought he meant, the way the commentators were saying it was like he just launched it down there thinking it was going to double bounce and bounce into the ants. No, if you're the back three, if you're Alex Anderson and you're looking at the back three going, what are you doing, lads? Because you've been given a reprieve by a missing touch. There's no way Ben Spencer, from a penalty, when you're 3 points down in your own 22, has just hoofed it as far as he can up the field. You're trying to find touch to launch an attack. Of course you are. You get the line out yourself. So free kick, different scenario, right? You do bang it long and just chase after it. But it wasn't. It was a penalty. So he's gone for touch. He's missed it. The back three just stood there looking at each other, and you're like, then their reaction was abysmal. So I think, for Alex Anderson, when it is so tight in that little bunch in the middle to even make the top four and top eight and all this malarkey, these little things are going to make big differences towards the end of the season. Yeah, I mean, I think Alex Anderson will be massively frustrated with how it all panned out. They got 4 tries, they missed a few kicks at goal. They had the game within their grasp at the end, and then they just switch off completely. So, for me, they got 4 tries, 3 points, 1 for the 4 tries, 2 for the draw. But I think it's 2 points dropped massively, especially with how tight the league's going to be towards the end of the season.
Jim, do you want to give us a snapshot of what's been going on in the URC?
I can give you a little bit, mate. #always Edinburgh. There you go.
Hell of a win.
First team to beat a South African team on South African home soil. Not just any team. The Sharks. The South Sea Sharks.
My old
Absolutely.
team.
Yeah. But Andrew, from when you play to where they play now, fully loaded. Sia Khaleesi. As well, just to name 2, they were fully loaded, the Sharks, and Edinburgh have gone down there, I'm going to say it, with a second-ish string team, not fully loaded, is what I should say, and beat them. Not only beat them 21 points to 5 in conditions that basically you needed to bring a snorkel, is all I'm saying. So that was a huge win for them because I just said, Sharks fully loaded, no team has won in South Africa, and #always Edinburgh have gone down there. And this is the joy, I suppose, of the URC now that we've not been able to see or experience. I know it's been a long year. It's been a changed year in terms of the fixtures, the South African games were potentially being looked at, being played in Europe. My point being is the teams get to tour now. Fair play to Edinburgh. Watch the game. It weren't a classic by any means. Blair Kinghorn, again, not that I wasn't warm to the fact of him playing 10, but in them conditions had a fantastic game. Scored a couple of tries, looked great, unbelievable moustache, controlled the game well, and it's a statement win. You know what I mean? When you talk about Scottish rugby, you talk about where they are now off the back of the Six Nations. The under-20s not performing. It's a statement win to go down to South Africa. So massive win against the Sharks for them. I mentioned I did the Cardiff-Glasgow game. Cardiff been struggling this season massively. Dai Young looks like he's about 70. And I feel bad because he went through a lot with Wasps. I love him as a coach, love him as a bloke. He was my Barbar's coach, albeit wouldn't let us drink after the Wednesday, so people fell out with him. But at Cardiff, it's been tough. The injuries that they've had for their team, the stuff around Christmas and COVID and lads being stuck down there, they're now starting to get some of their players back. And again, summer rugby, the conditions, artificial pitch, the fans, capital of Wales, a big win is what I'm trying to say. 32 points to 28 against Glasgow. They went 21-8 down. So I was commentating on that game. A few talking points around the Stormers Ulster game. If you speak to Dan McFarlane, the Ulster coach, they won it effectively. They didn't lose that game. Even though the scoreboard says 23 points to 20, Dan McFarlane ain't having it.
He's not having it. And to be fair, and this is what I like, right? Because I'll call out a TMO, I'll call out a referee when you make an error. And it goes quiet.
No, you won't.
But here we go. Dan McFarlane after the game is like, I consider we've won that game. It should have been a try. So it's Callum Reid flicking good over the line. It kind of gets knocked back. He doesn't knock it on. It gets knocked back in the tackle, and he still scores a try. And now the United Rugby Championship's head of match officials has come out today and said that the late and potentially decisive disallowed try for Ulster in their narrow defeat to the Stormers on Saturday should have stood. Tarpe Henning admitted that the process used by both the Italian referee Gianluca Ginecci and South African television match official Quinton Immelman in controversially chalking off the score was flawed. So they should have had the win. Ulster basically won it. Give them the points.
That's the URC. That's the URC. The referees. I'm taking the piss there, but I am. The officiating is significantly below the Prem, which arguably sometimes ain't the best. So there you go. So Ulster should have won that game. And, Dan McFarlane said it, and it's a difficult thing to say after a win.
A big bit of news coming out of the URC, obviously, was Leinster, my old international, was left, right and centre, going down to Connacht and putting 45 points on them down there. They play each other in a couple of weeks in the Champions Cup in the knockout stages, and they're taking an absolute pacing at home, Connacht. So good luck to them in the European Champions Cup last 16 in a few weeks, because fair play, Leinster absolutely annihilated them down there. Looking forward to seeing how that goes in a few weeks' time.
Well, the Women's Six Nations got underway at the weekend. We can have a chat about it all now with Scotland's second row, Emma Wassell. How are you, mate?
I'm good, thank you very much. Thank you.
Emma, class to have you on. I know that we've spoken a few times and our paths have crossed, and a fellow second row as well, which is great. Firstly, let's start off with the positive. How do you keep going? How are you playing every game on the spin? How do you do this?
There's a lot of luck in there. There is luck. I don't know. I'm scared for when the time comes. It'll be tough to adjust. But I don't know. You come off the pitch and I'm like, am I okay? I'm okay. Can I go next week? But
that's amazing. I'm just amazed that I'm speaking to a Scottish second row, a legendary Scottish second row, with a Scottish accent, because I have to deal with Jim Hamilton, who's English, but claims he was a legendary Scottish second row. Talk to us about the game, and obviously disappointing result. But what I want to know is, you played with a lot of the England girls at Loughborough Lightning. Was there any banter on the field between teammates? Because when I used to play against Jim, England against Scotland, I used to rip the piss out of him because he was terrible. But a bit of banter between the girls.
Look, I try not. I don't engage in it too much. But Loch Lomond was playing before kickoff, and I seen Helena Rowland across the pitch. She was singing along. She loves it. It was good. It's kind of hard to, obviously, you see the scoreline, you think, as Jim would say, keep it below 50.
I did say that, Emma, didn't I, before I sent you a voice note?
Honestly, it went through my head afterwards. I was like, Jesus Christ. Look, it's going to be easy for me to say, but I don't think that scoreline reflected how the game went at all. And I would like to think other people would agree with that. There was times we really did compete. And I would say put England under pressure. However, they are a very well drilled team and exploited our mistakes very well. Like our set piece functioned well. We got into their 22 10 times, I think, obviously converted once. So like that's something we can look at, but as in we were getting in the right areas and we were putting them under pressure. But again, like one mistake in that area and they were booting it down the park and drive them on, then that's another try. So like there's some real areas we can work on, but there was probably some positives. And yeah, like I do honestly believe there was areas of that times during that game that we were competing well against them.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've said it a million times. This isn't a joke. Genuinely, I've said that sometimes the scoreline doesn't reflect the game. I said that after we had 48 points put on us against New Zealand, but it sometimes is the way. What is the difference, do you think, between a team like England, who I'm going to say it, well funded? There's been a professional element around what they're doing. There seems to be a pathway for years. And again, I'm relatively new to the women's game and understanding what everyone goes through, what the different teams go through. But naturally, there's going to be a gulf, right? There's going to be a divide.
Again, like they have been professional for many years now, and they are very well drilled and they have threats everywhere. I think a big thing England have is depth, like real depth. And as much as I am hugely proud to have played 53 games in a row, in reality, should that be happening, they have players that are probably on rotation that are world class, like that just are not getting even the game time just because they have really good players everywhere. I think obviously the Prem 15s, like I've only played just one season with Loughborough Lightning, and the difference in playing club down south is night and day. So they've obviously had that set up for quite some time. Yeah, I think there's heaps of different things you could probably bring into it, and it's probably easy. It's sometimes I feel maybe a wee bit of a cop out to say like they're a fully professional team and we're not, but so many of us are now playing in the Prem 15s, and we know individually like we can compete against them, and we obviously play with them, but them as a unit, as a squad, just quite untouchable right now.
And a lot of that is, obviously, you mentioned it before, how professional it is and the investment from the RFU and everything like that. We saw what happened over in Ireland with the ladies over there and all that stuff. Do you think Scotland Rugby and Ireland Rugby, the RFU and the SRU and World Rugby need to do more? Because ultimately, you are strongholds in World Rugby, but England are so far ahead because of all the investment.
Yeah, and like I can obviously speak for SRU, and I know they are trying to invest in us, and that is coming. It's not something that's going to happen overnight. Again, like you could say we've left it a wee bit late, but better late than never. That obviously what we're doing now is hopefully for future generations, but it is starting to come. And I would like to see you will see the benefits from it, but again, it's not really a short-term thing. Us qualifying for the World Cup is kind of a huge step, hopefully, towards again the funding and hopefully professionalism. Like that is a big step. If we hadn't qualified, it's hard to know kind of what position we'd be in.
Yeah, it's phenomenal. Down in New Zealand as well.
I know
it's been delayed, so it's a dream come true, right? And realistically, let's look at quickly the rest of the Six Nations. Obviously, you play Wales away this weekend. Goals for the Six Nations and then going to the World Cup. Is it like a building phase because you've now reached the ultimate goal of the World Cup, and expectations for both competitions? Really, what would be success?
Yeah, as like it is. We've obviously normally we go into Six Nations. It's the main tournament of our whole season, whereas we've just come off of some of the biggest games of some of our lives. Do you know what I mean? Because that was qualifying for the World Cup, which was everything really. So going into this tournament was a bit like, okay, now we're preparing for World Cup. We have Wales in our pool, so this weekend will be very interesting. to kind of see where we're at. But I think it is hugely important, obviously, just to see that we are still making strides. Again, against England, scoreline maybe doesn't suggest it, but there's elements of that game where are completely a huge improvement from where we have been in the past, like set piece being one of them. So I think it is very much about showing improvements and hopefully like filtering in some of the young players and getting them good game time, because obviously we don't know the squad number you can take to the World Cup yet, but it's about kind of giving them a shot on the world stage and kind of seeing what they can do.
Yeah, absolutely. Emma, just from me, I don't know if you're happy to share a little bit about your story, but I read the Times article at the weekend that you did, and I think it was really nice. You were really honest in that, but maybe just share to the listeners why you got into rugby and kind of what motivated you to be where you are. Because you sit here, you've got a big smile on your face. You always seem like that when you're on social media, that you're loving it, but behind all that is a little bit of sadness and the motivation why you picked up a rugby ball.
Yeah, so like I started when I was at school. Friend's sister was kind of trying to get a girls' side together, and she was like, right, we need to go along. Again, I'd never really thought about playing rugby, didn't know much about women's rugby, girls' rugby, anything. My dad passed away when I was 10 years old. I knew he loved rugby. That was his everything. The socialising of it, going to Murrayfield, watching Scotland, and also played. I always knew that as a kid, but I was never aware that females played rugby too. So when that kind of opportunity came by, I was like, oh, you know what, I'll give it a shot. Like, that's quite nice. Like, dad liked rugby. I'll give it a go. And I think, like, obviously, ever since I've started it, I never once imagined that I would be here now. Like, my mum, even when she dropped me off, was for my first training session, was like, you're not going to like this. But genuinely did just fall in love with the game instantly. So yeah, something like very special to me and important to me is kind of playing for him. He, again, never knew I was aware of rugby to this extent anyway, and he will never get to see me play or pull on the Scotland shirt, but for me it's a huge motivation, and it is probably the reason I am just so passionate about Scottish rugby and just the game in general.
I'm sure he's got a big smile on his face wherever he is.
Yeah, he's definitely watching down you, enjoying everything that you're doing. Keep going. 53 consecutive tests is very impressive. And I'm just glad to speak to a Scottish second that's an absolute legend for once on this podcast. So thanks, Emma.
Emma, thank you very much for coming on the show. Best of luck for the rest of the Six Nations, and enjoy New Zealand.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having me.
Top lass.
Good woman.
Oh, good
top
woman.
Lass.
Yeah,
Sorry, I'm
lass.
Scottish. I'm lass.
Yeah, top lass.
I'm
Top
Scottish.
lass. Well, we say top lad, don't we? So you're allowed to say top lass. Yeah, what an amazing story, though. Find different motivations to play sport and start. But 53 tests on the spin. And you can see, like you said it, Jim, the smile on her face talking about it and living and breathing it. You know, and I loved what I loved about it. A second row talking about the set piece. She's like, yeah, our set piece was amazing. So very much, it's great to have her on, and hopefully, obviously, they go on to big things at the World Cup. But first and foremost, beat Wales this weekend.
Yeah, I think for me, it's the reason that I just said at the end. Always a smile on her face, looks happy, looks enjoying what she's doing, understands the growth of the game, understands that it's going to take time, is happy to share that journey with us. And like I mentioned, I read an article in the Times, and it was quite moving, and it's probably harder to talk about than it maybe is to talk about Bennett's editorial and written down. So yeah, to have her on and to be able to share that and her motivation for doing it, I think is quite powerful. And yeah, it mixes things up, having a lassie on every now and again. So big thank you to Emma, and yeah, obviously Scottish rugby's heading in the right direction in the women's game. Hopefully, now we're in the World Cup.
Well, should we move on to the rumour mill? Are there any rumours floating around, lads?
MARO to Worcester.
Yeah, don't think that's happening, Jim.
Yeah, just
throw one out there.
Yeah, just trying to put something in the mix for Worcester. There's a few big ones. Anthony Watson to Leicester. I heard the London Irish thing fell through. They didn't have the dollar for him. We just don't get paid that much, Andrew.
Yeah, I heard he was staying at Bath now.
I've heard that as well. I've heard he's staying at Bath, but Leicester are the ones where he could go to because where the money is there. But mate, wingers don't get paid as much as we think.
No, don't let him go to Leicester because we want Ashley to get another year, don't you?
I want him at Roslin Park. That's where I want Ashley, I'll be honest.
Here's one for you. Charlie Nartai, hell of a name, hell of a player, leaving Leon to go to Leinster. Leinster don't need any more quality in the centres. They've got internationals galore. Just get a young kid coming through. Yeah, I heard Charlie Nartai is going to Leinster.
O'Flaherty as well, the extra winger. O'Flaherty, Thomas O'Flaherty. He's leaving Exeter apparently, just what I've heard.
Where to?
Sale was the rumour.
Really? Nathan Hughes to Claremont is another one I'm hearing whispers of.
I heard Bristol's running it back.
I think more of an injury crisis. It's interesting when you hear, why did he leave Bristol? I don't know. Very strange.
I don't know. There's some people at live show shouting stuff out, but I couldn't hear him. His hair apparently is lead.
Thanks, Jim. Thanks, Gertie. Thanks, producer Tristan. And thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and make sure you've subscribed on Spotify.
Rugby Spot.
Spotted pod.